This is the second lecture of our course, Stylistics. Actually, this is the first part of the second lecture of our course. We want to come across different themes that might help us even to understand what this course is and what is it about, and that we are going to employ is going to employ us with different themes and methodologies or techniques that might help us to do any stylistics analysis for any kind of literary work. Okay, so together let's see the lecture. So in this respect, the notion of the national language, the word or the phrase national language is of great relevance. I think of national language as a term, as a phrase, what's meant by it. For example, AD Schweitzer, or Schweitzer defines the national language as historical category evolving from conditions of economic, political concentration which characterizes the formation of a nation. What creates a nation, either politically, socially, economically, is the national language that those people speak. For these things together, they form what's meant by national language because this language is spoken by those people who are sharing the same political, geographical, social, and all these things together, they form the society or their nation. So the language that is they speak, which has been affected by these categories I just mentioned, this create the national language of those people because those elements, those categories, those classifications, those parts form this nation. So they speak the national language, which has to do with their different, these different, bones or corners. In other ways, national language is the language of the nation, the language spoken by a certain group of people who are living, sharing the same area, politically, economically, and that is characterized what form their nation. So the standard of its form, the language of the nation's literature. So national language is the language of the nation, the standard of its form, and the language of the nation's literature. So these people, they share the same literature, they have its own standard form, so together they form a nation who speaks, this national language. This term is quite clear now, national language. The literary language is a variety of national language. Language is a variety from group of national language. The literary language is also regarded as a historical category, as a historical background. You know, this literary language, the language that create the literature of the people who share the same boundaries or the same state or the same area of residence. Those people, they have this historical background. The historical background categorize or form their literary language. So if you consider the group of people, they have their own literary language, which reflects their literature, no matter their literature is rich or poor. It is the elaborated variety of the national language imposes and obeys definite morphological, phonetic, syntactical, lexical, phraseological, and stylistic norms. So this language meets, imposes, and obeys different linguistics. Therefore, it is applicable in all kinds of and types of discourse, whether it's spoken discourse or written discourse. It allows some modifications. do some sort of modification, but within the framework of the system of established norm. It does not exceed established norms by those group of people. It becomes like grammatical rules or syntactical rules or phonological rules or whatever linguistic rules that is being followed, established or to differentiate, identify this kind of norms or system of language that people speak. Standard English is synonymous, has have the same meaning with the term literary English. Can you see any similarities or similarity between standard English and literary English? Because there should not be any confusion between these two terms. Literary language and language of literature. There is no confusion between them. Can you think interchangeably? Though the former, which is the literary language, is an abstraction, an ideal, it's about abstract ideas, notions, and not being clearly stated. This ideal helps to establish more or less strict norms for all aspects of the language, no matter how difficult it may be. So, literary language has to do with literature and how these abstract ideas are being presented within a certain text or there is no hard division between the notions of literary language. Literary language, they are interdependent. They are interdependent. They are linked together. You cannot separate them. The literary language constantly enriches its vocabulary at the expense of non-literary language. Also adopts some of its tactical peculiarities and specialities, I mean, and gives them the status of norms of the literary language. Thus, selection is the most typical feature of the literary language. And it's been chosen, you have to choose certain types of language so that you want to convey a certain message or paper or theme or idea. Process of selecting and admitting lexical or morphological forms in language is not a conscious effort of scholars. When a linguistic item circulating in the non-literary language gains admission into the literary language, it is mostly due to the conscious choice of the men of letters who find either an aesthetic value in the given unit or some other merit that will justify its recognition as a lawful member of the literary language. That means what? Using a literary language has to do with the message, with the meaning, with what we want to convey. So it's being chosen by the man of letters, the writer, because he's the only one who is able to convey or to use the appropriate language, I mean literary language, which might convey what he wants for the readers. For the readers. And in its turn, the literary language greatly influences the non-literary language. Literary language معناها you are going to use certain specific devices, many words, construction, and phonetic improvements have been introduced through it into the English colloquial language. This influence has its greatest effect in the 19th century with the spread of general education and in the 20th century with the introduction of radio, television into the daily lives of the people and development of mass media. Because of all this right now, literary language greatly influence the non-literary language. People right now they start to use the non-literary language they are the use of literary language has been affected their the daily their daily life using of the because of social medias, mass media, television, radio, every here. People speak this literal language, speak the standard that high standard language, which is literal language. In right now, it influences highly. It influences the literary, the non-literary language, the normal language that people speak. Style and norm. The word style is derived from the Latin word uh, Stilos, 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 meant a short stick sharp end at one end, flat at the other, used by the Romans for writing on wax tables. Now the word style is used in many senses and become ambiguous. The word is applied to teaching how to write a composition. It is also used to reveal the correspondence between thought and expressions. You think of something and then you need. So this correspondence being known as style. The moment that you want to you to reveal your correspondence ideas down, you are going to set expressions. So it is your style is affected by your thought. If it frequently denotes an individual manner of making use of language. They use the language not on the same way. Okay, so the way I use as an individual to make or use the language, this is sometimes it refers to more general, abstract notions, thus becoming vague. As, for example, style is the man himself. Cannot hear you confuse the word style. What's meant by style here? Because it's been using here abstract. It has like an abstract meaning here. Style is deviations. Style is deviation. Style. So in these two examples, you look at the style from an abstract point of view. It has an abstract. Okay, this is what makes it very vague. You need to look deeply so that you understand what's meant by style here. Some or all of the language habits shared by a group of people at one time or over a period of time. For example, the style of the Augustan poets, the style of Greek poets, the style of Arab poets, the style of Egyptian poet. As you can see here, it has been the habit shared by a group of people at one time or over a period of time. Effectiveness of mode of expression is so in this case it is given a more restricted meaning used in the evaluative sense. Effectiveness of a mode of expression. Sometimes that a certain expressions are highly effective in the people or the readers. So you can be influenced or affected by certain writer by his or her own style of writing, or expression that he or she uses. The use of the word style referring solely to the literary language as characteristics of good, effective, beautiful. Now it becomes like style refers to how good, effective, beautiful writing. It is associated with it is associated with primarily or exclusively with literature. Right now people associate the word style with the word literature. Style is the techniques of expression. In this sense, style is defined as the ability to write clearly, correctly, and in a manner calculated to impress the reader. When you have the ability to write clearly and correctly, and in a way that you impress the reader, this is style. This is a purely utilitarian. This is purely utilitarian view. If this were true, style could be taught. Style in this sense of expression studies the normalized forms of the way that you the language style. The problem of norm is connected with the notion of style. The norm of usage is established by the language community at every given period in the development of the language. The publication of dictionaries does much to establish the literary language norms. As a matter of fact, it is impossible to establish any norm once and for all. At the very moment it is established, it begins to fluctuate, and at every period the norm is in a state of fluctuation. Thus, there are two conflicting tendencies in the process of establishing the norm. Preservation of the already established existing norm and the introduction of new norms not yet firmly established. So these are the two conflicting tendencies in the process of establishing the norm. And constructions which were once considered illiterate have become literary, although much effort was made to stop innovations, particularly in the sphere of vocabulary by the basis of any given period. But most of their efforts were in vain. Only people who are law lawgivers of the language gradually those who are following this systematic way of language gradually accept changes in all language levels and in vocabulary. So the generalized definition of the notion of norm is the following. It is a uniform, example, commonly recognized usage of language elements, words, word combination, sentences. Rules is more of rules of using speech means at a definite speech means at a definite period in the development of the literary language. So this is generalized definition of the notion of norm, which is a uniform, exemplary, commonly recognized using of language elements. The way that language elements are used, either words, combination, phrases, expressions, sentences, and the rules that govern these and the speech means at the definite development of the literary language. This is lecture number two, part one. I hope it is okay for all of you. Enjoy it, dear students, and thank you very much. The last slide. I understand the literary language greatly influenced the non-literary language. In many ways, constructions and phonetic improvements have been introduced through it, language and legal. Influence has its great effect in the 19th century with the spread of general education and in the 20th century with the introduction of radio, television into daily lives of the people and development of mass media. So this is a repeated slide, no problem. It again shows the literary language and how it is being greatly influenced by the literary language. The literary language and the literary language are influenced due to the spread of education, mass media, and so many other, language aspects which influence the literary language and non-literary language at the same time. Thank you very much, dear students.